Hey Geometries, this is Mr. Bloom, and I'm bringing you Lesson 8.2, Special Right Triangles, Day 2. Our objectives today is the same as yesterday. Students will be able to use the properties of special right triangles. Now, yesterday we did 45, 45, 90. Today I'm going to give you kind of a walkthrough to find out what we're going to do. This is an equilateral triangle. Now, if I take an equilateral triangle and cut it in half, I put down an angle bisector. I got this angle congruent to that angle. And I've got to recall an equilateral triangle, all the sides are the same. So that means this must be 6 and this must be 6. And if I just split this angle in half, I split this side in half. So this and this are the same. So now this is 3 and this is 3. Now I could use, well, this has got to be a right triangle. Now I could probably find the height of this if I use the Pythagorean theorem. So if I went h squared plus 3 squared is equal to c squared 6 squared. So this is h squared plus 9 is equal to 36. If I subtract 9, I got h squared, I got h squared equal 27. And if I take the square root of both sides, I find out that h is actually the square root of 9 times the square root of 3, which is 3 the square root of 3. Now, this height is 3 the square root of 3. Now I'm going to let you in on a secret. On every equilateral triangle, when I split that, that height is always going to be half that side length, half the side length, times the square root of 3. Okay? Wow, that's crazy. Hey, wait a minute. I wonder, we had that special property yesterday of 45, 45. I wonder if 30, 60, 90s have the same one. Guess what? They kind of have a different property, but it's kind of a good property. In a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the length of the hypotenuse is twice the length of the shorter leg. The length of the longer leg is the square root of 3 times the length of the shorter leg. What's that mean? And again, we're going to take these S's and make them X's. Okay, because that'll drive me insane and maybe you. If I know the longer leg, okay, my longer leg is equal to my short leg times the square root of 3. My hypotenuse is equal to the short leg times 2. So the short leg runs the whole deal. Once I get the short leg, I can get the others. Let's check this out. So if I know the short leg, and I'm going to orient our pattern so it will help us. If I know the short leg, we're going to call that X. And the hypotenuse, because the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, the short leg's always opposite the 30-degree angle, the long leg's always opposite the 60-degree angle, and the long leg is the square root of 3. Just like that, we know that we can get these things done, okay? And we can match up our pattern. So if I know the short leg is 3, my longer leg is 3 the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 6. Well, gosh, go do 2 and 3. Quickly, quickly, fly. Use the pattern. Okay, so remember here, the short leg is 5. It is opposite the 30. So the longer leg is 5, the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 5 times 2, which is 10. Short leg is 7. Longer leg is 7, the square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 7 times 2, which is 14. Okay, now that's the first iteration of things. Wow, that's kind of cool. I'm going to bring this down. We have our pattern. Remember, we have our pattern there. That's the pattern we're using this whole time. And I just keep my eyes on the prize, the pattern. So now to go back here, I got to cut my hypotenuse in half. I got to take my hypotenuse and cut it in half. So now 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now my short leg is 4 if my hypotenuse is 8. And the short leg times the square root of 3, the short leg times the square root of 3 is the longer leg. Well, what's the short leg if it's 12? Go, finish out their other two. The pattern's the same. Cut the 12 in half, I get 6. 6 the square root of 3. And the next one is 2 and 2 the square root of 3. Now, please keep in mind, we are still focusing on our pattern. I have not changed the pattern. I just keep dragging it along with us. Okay, now When the longer leg is provided, remember that's the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. Well, the short leg, therefore, must be 5 because to get the short leg times the square root of 3 is equal to my long leg. If I divide by the square root of 3, I get x is equal to 5. Hey, cool, got it. Now, I don't have to show that all the time, but I'm going to use that idea in problem 10, 11, and 12. My long leg, my longer side, which is my hypotenuse, is my short leg doubled. 5 times 2, 10. That's what that says. Well, great. Now, I can find the values of the other parts of the triangle. I can, well, this is 7, square root of 3. This must be 7. This must be 14. You do 9. Go! Okay, I didn't even have to like shut it off. You're that fast. 6 and 12. I hope you're noticing our pattern. I'm just pulling our pattern along. Now, just like the 45-45, our pattern is going to meet a challenge. Okay, now it's about our pattern. And you got to keep in mind on the previous one, I took our short leg, multiplied it by the square root of 3, and I got a value, in this case 9. Now, I'm going to divide by the square root of 3 to find the value of the short leg, x. So x is equal to 9 the square root of 3. Now, keep in mind, please, that 9 is my long leg. And I am going to take that 9, and I'm going to rationalize the root, and I'm going to have 9 the square root of 3 all over 3. Hey, I wonder if that's a pattern because we did that kind of in the last one. But I got 9 the square root of 3 over 3. And I'm going to divide out, and I know 3 the square root of 3 is my value. So 3 the square root of 3 is my short leg. So my short leg is 3 the square root of 3. Well, once I get the short leg, I know my long leg is related by my hypotenuse is related by multiplying my short leg by 2. So I'm going to take my short leg, multiply it by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, and then that's 6 the square root of 3 is my long leg. We're going to do this again. Okay, now remember, 9 was divisible by 3, so I got rid of that fraction. But if it wasn't, I wouldn't. And my example here is this. So again, I'm working with my pattern. Remember, we've been bringing the same pattern along the entire time. I have my longer leg, which is 4. Okay, I have my longer leg, which is 4. My long leg is 4, so it's 4 the square root of 3 is equal to 4. Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm going to divide by the square root of 3 like I have been, okay? And I want you to focus on the pattern. That was the first thing I started with. Now, this is x is equal to, remember, 4 the square root of 3. Now, I'm going to get my value rationalized, so it's 4. Remember, 4, and then I multiply it by 3, the square root of 3 over 3. So that is my value of x, my short leg. Now I can't divide 4 by 3, so that's my value. So now I know 4 the square root of 3 over 3 is my short leg. And once I do that, I can now multiply that value by 2 to get my hypotenuse. So I go to get the hypotenuse, I take 2 times my short leg, 4 the square root of 3, and that's where 8 the square root of 3 comes from. 8 the square root of 3 over 3. Now, it's your turn. You've seen 2 examples. It is now your turn to do 12. Go. Okay, welcome back. Okay, I've got, again, x the square root of 3 is equal to 11. I divide by the square root of 3, and x is 11 divided by the square root of 3. I multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. I get 11 the square root of 3 all over 3. That is my short leg. I multiply that by 2, and I get 22 the square root of 3 over 3 for my hypotenuse, and I'm good as gold. Okay, now again, I'm only as good as gold if I get it. Okay, I'm only as good as gold as I get it. So if you've got questions, find your local geometry teacher and ask them. because they will be able to clear up any issues you may have. Now, applying the 30, 60, 90 triangle. Jewelry making, an artisan makes pendants in the shape of equilateral triangles. The height of each pendant is 18 millimeters. Remember, we started this? Equilateral triangle. Half of an equilateral triangle is a 30, 60, 90. Now, they said the height of these equilateral triangle pendants is 18. Well, that's the short leg, or the long leg, excuse me. That's my long leg. So my short leg is equal to 18. The x times the square root of 3 is equal to 18. So I'm just going to divide by the square root of 3. And remember, x is equal to 18, the square root of 3. And remember, we had that, got to make it all pretty. And it becomes 18, the square root of 3, all over 3. So it becomes 6, the square root of 3. So now I know my short leg is 6, the square root of 3. And my hypotenuse is twice that, which is 12, the square root of 3. Now let's see what they've got. The height of each pendant is 18 millimeters. What's the length S of each side of a pendant to the nearest 10th of a millimeter? Now, I found my answers, okay? And remember, this is the length of my sides, okay? And so I would have to take 6, the square root of 3, and that would equal 12, the square root of 3. And this is also 12, the square root of 3. So they're asking me, what's the length of each side? And it's 12, the square root of 3. So length of each side is 12, the square root of 3, which is because they asked for nearest millimeter, I'm going to go 12 times second square root of 3, and I hit enter, and it's 20.78. And I've got to check out the tenth of a millimeter. So my tenth is 20.8 because I round that 8 to 9, that 7 to 8. So it's 20.8 millimeters, and that is length of each side. Okay, it's the use of a 30, 60, 90 triangle using my pattern. Now, we get to do both. This is so awesome. Okay, we get to do both. I want you to work on this one first, and then we move over to this one next. Okay, so do the green triangle first, and I shouldn't say green, I said just do the plain green, do that red green one next. Okay, now this is hypotenuse. Half the hypotenuse is my short side, 2 the square root of 3. Now remember, in a 30, 60, 90, okay, this is 2. I should probably get this up a little higher. 2x, this is x the square root of 3. Now, this is just multiplying the short side by the square root of 3, so 2 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is equal to that side. So, well, that's just 6. So this is 6. That makes, because this is a 45, 45, 90, this is also 6. And because this is a x the square root of 2, this is equal to 6 the square root of 2 for my sides. And I have used this idea of 45, 45, 30, 60, 90 to find my lengths that were missing. Okay, draw this triangle and solve. Okay, so we got this going down. Now, our summary today. Our objective, students be able to use the properties of special right triangles. Those are 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90. And maybe we'll get some pictures in with this. So at 45, 45, remember the pattern. X the square root of 2, 45, 45, and 30, 60, 90. You'll notice each time I draw them, they're the same direction. Okay, where this is 60 and that's 30, and those are the patterns I have to be very, very comfortable with doing. Okay, now, keeping in mind, This is only good if you get it. If you have questions, you must ask, but start checking off the things you know and seek out enlightenment if you still have questions with your local geometry teacher. Remember, I'm Mr. Bloom and you're not. Have yourselves a great day.